everyone, I'm Brandy, an OpenSciEd teacher and professional learning facilitator. Welcome to OpenSciEd Chemistry, Unit 3, Lesson 2. The station lab investigation that students get to do in this lesson is one of my favorites because it does a really good job of helping the students to understand the different properties of water. Later on in this video, I'll show you posters that students in my actual classroom made to share their findings. Let's take a look at how we got here. So during lesson 1, we figured out that because space travel is vast and very expensive and slow, most materials needed in space must be found, recycled, or produced on site. These materials can be made by rearranging matter through chemical reactions that turn reactants into new products. Since water seems really important in this lesson, we're wondering, how does water support life and chemical reactions? Here's the lesson at a glance. The properties of water investigation takes place over 2 45-minute days. The teacher's guide says about 45 minutes of materials preparation is required, but if it's the first time you are setting up the 6 different stations, it might take a little longer. Station 6 has an alternate activity that has the students using the CODAP data, which must be accessed on their device rather than the seasonal city temperatures data printouts. The directions are included on the last page of the water properties investigation. If you use the CODAP option, be sure to print those directions and check out the optional video. There are 2 big sections in this lesson. Let's see what's happening in each. So in the first loop, the students gather information about properties of water by exploring 2 of 6 stations. Since they don't go to every station, the students prepare to share their findings with the class. At the beginning of day 2, each of the groups share their findings. We figure out that some of those properties include surface tension, high specific heat capacity, transparency, and ability to dissolve most substances. We wonder how the properties of water we investigated are important for life and/or important for chemical reactions. In the second loop, we build the Water's Importance for Life and Chemical Reactions poster with the properties that the students investigated at the stations and the properties that students have heard from their home learning or now have knowledge of from prior units of study. We summarize that water supports life and is used in chemical reactions because of its properties. We wonder, could we use what we have heard or seen to find evidence of water on other places or in space? We figure out that water supports life and chemical reactions because of key properties like surface tension, high specific heat capacity, transparency, and its ability to dissolve many substances. And now for a few key moments. A key moment in part 4 is the water investigations about the properties. You'll set up 6 stations, but student groups will only visit 2 of the 6. In addition to comparing liquids, they will also gather information about water and light interactions in the ocean, as well as compare temperature data inland versus in coastal communities. Along the way, they will start to add new terms to their personal glossaries. A key moment in part 8 is when the students will share out their station findings. Since each group only visited 2 stations, it's an important opportunity for them to communicate information and evidence that they have gathered. A key moment in part 9 is a building understanding discussion where you will be constructing a poster similar to the one that's shown here. You'll be including information about the properties of water that the students discovered during the station investigation. There's also a chance for students to share about what they heard from their home learning or for them to make connections back to previous units of study. The underlined terms on the poster correspond to new terms that you'll want students to add to their personal glossaries. So where do we go from here? In the next lesson, we will develop the Surface Features and Causes poster, which we will use as evidence to support claims about geologic processes caused the formation of surfaces on the Earth, the Moon, and Mars, as seen from satellite photos. And now for a few tips and tricks. In part 4, this is the water properties investigation. I made signs that said station 1, station 2, etc., and I placed them around the room at the 6 different locations to make it really easy for my students to find. As much as you might be tempted to just add another day and let all the students complete all 6 stations, don't do it. This lesson is intentionally developed this way so that the students have to communicate their findings with the class and hear from other groups. This part is directly connected to the science and engineering practice of obtaining, evaluating, and communicating information. I also highly recommend having each group make a poster about the first station that they visited to support the upcoming part where they will share their findings with the other groups. I asked each group to make a visual and include the data that they collected for the station. I also asked them to check in with their sister group that also completed that same station to double check on the accuracy of the data and if there was anything else they should include on their poster. So here we are in part 8, and these are some actual student-created posters from my classroom. As each group shared their poster, the other students listened and completed their water property investigation handout by filling in the data that was shared. After the group shared, I went back to each poster and I asked the students to identify the important property that was represented by each station. I wrote that property in red on each poster. Later, we made sure to define each of these properties in their personal glossaries. I choose to keep these posters up in my room for a while because they're helpful to refer back to in future lessons. For the personal glossary, we encounter many terms during this station lab. As you visit the students while they're working through the stations, you can encourage them to record any new terms in their personal glossary and then revisit those terms during the share out in part 8. This will allow the students to document all of the terms, even if they didn't visit that station. For poster management, you'll need the related phenomena chemical reactions poster that you created in lesson 1 and your classroom community agreements from the beginning of the school year. You'll be making the Water's Important for Life and Chemical Reactions poster as a summary of the station findings for the properties of water. Be sure to save it so that you can use it again in lesson 4. If you have the wall space, you might want to consider keeping the posters that the students made for the different water property stations as well. So that's it. To recap this 2-day lesson, we learned a lot about special water properties and attributes of water. Up next in lesson 3, as we continue our quest to look for water, the students will investigate the geologic processes that cause formation of surface features on Earth, like water, and then compare those with images from satellites of the moon and Mars. Good luck and have fun.